This is a piece I chose to write in surround sound. And the reason I did is because I've always loved the idea that in a concert hall, you can do things that you can't do with your stereo system or your Walkman or riding a bicycle or jogging and listening to music. You can get very good stereo, but you really can't get the breadth of a concert hall. And I've always liked to have players in the concert hall, but in the symphony world, that's just not practical because we only get 1 or 2 days of rehearsal and we're on. But in the band world, where they really rehearse, you can do a whole piece like this, Circus Maximus, that involves surround sound. So you're going to hear trumpets around you, you're going to hear saxophones in the distance, and a marching band, and all sorts of things that are going to be happening in this Circus Maximus, which is a piece that both is a celebration and a warning. It's a very strange piece. First of all, about the Circus Maximus. It was a real place, and it still is. In ancient Rome, it was the biggest theater, and it still is the biggest theater in the world. It seated 400,000 people a day for 1,000 years. That's the longest run and the most people that you could ever have sitting anywhere to watch gladiator fights and chariot races and all the things that Romans loved to watch for entertainment. The Colosseum was next door, and they'd go and see stuff there, and then they'd drop over to the Circus Maximus. And the leaders of Rome really liked that because when the Gauls were coming down from the north and Rome was being threatened, more and more entertainment took place because if you keep the people entertained, they don't see what's coming. And so I had a vision of this piece being very appropriate to our time. And, you know, I have my iPhone right here, and I live, on it and with my computer and with my 500 channels of television and the 3D movies and all of the things that distract us that are so wonderful. Technology has done great things for us, but that same technology can do terrifying things like build a suitcase bomb that could blow up a whole city, and we all know that. So Circus Maximus celebrates and warns about this fabulous world we live in, and all the movements describe various aspects of that. It begins with a movement called introitus, which is a wild fanfare from the trumpets up in the balcony and the orchestra down here, back and forth, rolling around and creating quite a din of glorious splendor and brass playing. Then we have a movement called screen siren. Now, the reason it's called screen siren is the following. The sirens in ancient Greece lured the shipmen to their deaths on the rocks by singing these beautiful songs and using the seduction of their beautiful voices and their beauty. Today, on the screen, we have the same kind of thing. We have sirens that lure us to buy cars and toothpaste and all sorts of other things, but it's the same thing. It's all by seduction. So the second movement is a movement about seduction, and you'll hear very sexy saxophones playing, indeed, really quite wonderful, with other members of the players around the hall joining in on the seduction, being seduced and being seduced until they're interrupted by something, the movement, the name will be familiar to you, channel surfing. And this movement is about the idea that we're so impatient and we need so much entertainment. When we watch a news broadcast, it's not enough that we see the news broadcast, but we have to have rolling below another completely different story that's happening to us, so we don't get bored by one. We got two, and very often there's a third picture happening of something else happening in the right-hand corner. That's the way we live, and then we turn that off, or we have that on with our computer, and we're doing something else on the computer. So it's the age of impatience and constant need for new entertainment. And in channel surfing, you're going to hear a click, and every time you hear the click, one of these groups all over the hall is going to be playing different kinds of music from different kinds of experiences. You can imagine the opening one is like a Bugs Bunny chase. You'll hear this wild chase music, and you can just imagine him running across the stage. And then with a click, they're into a romantic drama. And with a click, we're into a fox hunt movie where you can hear horns way up there playing, and trumpets way up there playing fox hunt music, and with a click you're going to hear the marching band right back there playing, and then suddenly you're going to hear the sirens, but this time like real sirens, playing wild siren music, and then back to the stage, and back here, and back here, and back here, and back here, until it builds to a huge climax. And then after that climax, we bring back the introitus, the opening music, and the fanfares come back. And we reach a big bear peak, and then we careen downhill, and we need some rest and peace. And indeed, your ears will need some rest and peace. And that's the night music. And the night music is my vision of getting away from all this technology. It's the prairie, it's the land where you don't have a green glowing thing in front of you, but instead you can enjoy the beauty of the stars, and you'll hear the stars, in a sense, played by crotales and little cymbals and little harp and vibraphone. And wolves will call from up there and from down here to each other, and you'll feel the sense of peace that happens when you get away from all of this. But it's called Night Music 1 because there's a Night Music 2. And the Night Music 2 is the night music of the city. And that night music is a very different kind of night music. It's marked nervous in the score, and indeed it is nervous. The music kind of jitterbugs back and forth into a barroom brawl, and to a police chase, ambulances going off, gunshots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of this happens and builds and builds and builds and builds until the climax movement, Circus Maximus, which I believe is the 6th movement or so, if I'm counting correctly. Maybe it's the 5th. I think it's the 6th. Now, the Circus Maximus movement is really weird because here we really go into what we overkill our ears with. We are going to hear all the movements put on top of each other. You're going to hear the hunting horns from the channel surfing. You're going to hear the saxophones playing their wailing, and you're going to hear the orchestra playing from other movements, and the marching band will come in and march, and all of it will build to a very, very big chord, which I might say is much louder than the gunshot. So that warning to cover your ears at the end is not necessary, because unless you've covered it before, because it's not going to be as loud as the climax chord that gets hit at the top of Circus Maximus, and then there's a 2-minute descent. And then the 7th movement is called Prayer. And it's simple, simple melody, and you'll hear it played first by the English horn, and then by the clarinet, and then by the flute, and then the whole ensemble. And of course, a prayer is a prayer. It's a prayer for the hope that we can see ourselves through all of this craziness. And so it's very, very lyrical and very, very full of melody. And bits of that melody, by the way, if you want to hear back, are in the Night Music 1, but you wouldn't know that until you get to the prayer. And then the prayer builds and builds, and finally the prayer is building to a climax, and we start hearing the last movement, which is called Veritas, which means the truth. And we start hearing the drums. There's going to be a set of drums on one side of you and a set of drums on the other side of you, and they start playing, and they build in tension and build until finally we realize the fanfares have come back, the introitus has come back. It's even bigger than the prayer, which is still playing. And they reach a peak, and there's a single high note, and then it's all over. And that's the piece. It takes about 34 minutes. Hope you enjoy it. That's all there is to it. Thank you.